Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Carl's Christian Podcast. So today we are reacting to Vice President Harris interview on Fox News, and the reason I didn't react to the debates is because I was kind of late to it. So I was like, "There's no point in reacting to something that's already been reacted to about a million times." But I'm kind of late to this as well. But I figured I might as well watch it. If you're new to the podcast, please subscribe and let's get into it.
Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know,
I know she did not want to be on here.
voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Yo, that is crazy. Already started with the hot questions. You can see the facial expressions.
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a
which
number.
is,
Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that
Yeah, it's already getting
we
high.
have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your
And-
Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
It's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people
that
have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were
Okay. Let me not, I'm not, this is probably the last time I'm going to pause it because I don't have to be talking over it. Because I do have a foreign policy video coming over and how America's foreign policy was started and how it was intended to be.
released
I
from
just wanted to say that
custody
real quick.
awaiting
It's coming
trial.
out soon.
So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
I don't, look, I don't like when people cut each other off. I feel like it's just kind of rude. But
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border.
hasn't been done very well. And I know there's going to be people who think or who are going to comment that's not true. But, like, let's look at it. Leaving Trump out of the equation, the most recent presidents have... Actually, let me see. Obama did 2 terms, so that's 8 years. Biden did this term, so that's 12 years. 12 out of the last 16 years, the border's been more chaotic than ever. And it's not because of... I'll just let her finish.
Entry points, that's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put...
The border's still weak, though. I have a video coming out on the actual statistics of the border.
1,500 more
is
border
very
agents
weak.
at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And
I just want a simple answer. Like, I don't want to. If I get asked a question, just give me the quick answer. I don't want to hear 90 minutes of an answer to a question. Which she doesn't just do, but like both candidates do. Like, just give us a direct answer. If you get asked a question, just give us an answer. Please don't go on for a million-hour rant. And this is from not just from Kamala Harris, like from even Donald Trump. Just give us a direct answer. Don't make things sound better than they actually are, and just give us the answer to our question without expounding and making it, because like, I don't know, I feel like the answers are just way too long.
This is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have, and what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it.
Ooh, that is surprising. 6 Democrats voted against it. Vermont, New Jersey, Maine, question mark? I think Montana or Maine. Arizona, California, and California.
These are the 6 Democrats.
Wait.
But more importantly, back to the original
California,
premise.
that's surprising.
Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true.
I'm just going to say, before anyone else says something and disagrees with me, the border video that I have coming out that tells about the statistics and everything, Kamala Harris went and looked at the border for about a good few minutes. She left. They didn't do anything about the border. They saw the whole thing at the border. Yes, all these bills and stuff they say that they're doing at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Look at the statistics. And the amount of people getting into the country illegally and the amount of criminals, actually, it's the amount of criminals that are in those mix of people that are getting in. Because yes, the majority, yes, they are hardworking people and they're just looking for opportunities for jobs and stuff. But the other ones, the minority of that group, are criminals. 13,000 convicts confirmed this year have come into the country through the border. Our border is apparently, one day I need to go look at the border because our border is apparently the easiest border to get through if they're getting through just like this.
It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about...
We need to get someone. I know there's people, those people that can like read the expressions on your face. Someone will read the. I don't know how to read it. I wish I could. I might go and get that degree where I can read people's expressions to tell if they're lying or telling the truth or something. But yeah.
What is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions? Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in
her?
all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
There were
that's how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and
I'm not pausing or talking a lot just because I want to hear it to myself, but I'll pause here.
said you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support.
Yeah, okay.
They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
Ooh.
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
That does not answer the question. Yo.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
No, but let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president.
I'm gonna be so real. Before 2020, I didn't know who Kamala Harris was. I didn't know who Tim Walz was. I didn't know who J.D. Vance was. No, okay. I didn't even know who J.D. Vance was till this year. I didn't know who Tim Walz was till this year. Kamala Harris, I knew when she ran with Biden. That's when I found out who she was. But like, none of these people, I already knew who Trump was because 2016 was a kind of long time ago. But yeah, I don't know. It's
that
like people
work
pop
quite
out of
seriously.
nowhere.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
Whoa. Yep.
For prisoners. For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Yeah, that's already a no support, no vote right there for me. Yeah. Let's see what she says.
Are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that
Not answering the question. She supports it. She's just saying I will follow the law, but like that's not answering.
Donald
yes or
Trump
no.
actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what, you got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in
presidency.
your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in
So
black and white.
would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I
you have a
think
say
Donald
in
Trump would
this.
say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people.
All the needs of the American people. No one right now is focusing on them. We're going straight on all these rampant things, sending millions and trillions and billions of dollars, investing in other countries, other nations, rather than in ourselves, instead of investing in our border, instead of investing in all the problems that we have as America. And so no one's really focusing on the main issues in America, if we're being honest.
People. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue
Hey, you got $20 million.
that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on
it was
plans
different,
for the
but
American
we'll move
people,
on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates.
Am I the only person that thinks it's the way politicians phrase their words? They make everything sound so good until it sounds way too good to be real in this reality. I don't know. I feel like the way they phrase their stuff, they're very careful how they phrase their words, how they say stuff. I don't know.
Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand.
Wait, what do you mean what we would do as president of the United States? What does that mean? What we would do? I thought it was you being president. What we would do.
Understand how economic policy works, that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future,
Not you.
and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
I'm gonna be honest. I feel like right now Biden's literally just trying to get through his term. This man, I feel like he's really just chilled out now to the point where he's just like, I just want to get this over with. I don't even, just get me out of here, please.
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with,
You got the fake laughter in the background.
28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So,
Y'all, when the election comes, I'm going to try to live stream the live results and stay there the whole time. That's going to be one big live stream. I'm going to try, though.
you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership.
Can we talk about foreign policy for a second? Like, no one's been... She hasn't said one thing about everyone. I don't know.
I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing.
Like, we got Russia and China and North Korea building this massive team, and then we're all over here talking about the most pointless stuff in America. Like, politicians aren't focusing on what actually matters at all.
Addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction.
$25,000 down paying assistance for new homeowners.
From $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed.
It's like, look, I understand you're running against Donald Trump, but every single sentence that you are saying is Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Answer the question and don't bring other people into it this whole time. Like, I feel like every sentence is she's just comparing herself to Donald Trump, she's just adding. I feel like questions could be answered way better than they're currently being answered.
And implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
That is fair. Like, what else are you going to do that you haven't already done? And you have 4 years, and nothing's gotten better. So, like, what are you going to do that you haven't already done? Look, and she's just going to say, and Donald Trump did the same.
Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
Like, She's just using Donald Trump in every single sentence.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that
I don't respect Vice President Pence.
people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people.
if
People
that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a
So
cakewalk
are they misguided, the
for
50%?
Listen,
It was a case. Well, I've been going back and seeing what it was. The elections were like back then. Ronald Reagan literally won his election 49 states. He won in a landslide. So I feel like elections, most times they're kind of close, but like most times you can kind of tell who's gonna win. This election and the last presidential election, it's been kind of weird. And actually, the last 3 presidential elections have all been way too close.
Are they stupid? What is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that.
Fox News is on top of it. They have all the videos. They asking the right questions.
Saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about
Yeah, and what are you doing, Kamala Harris? You're turning illegal immigrants on the American people.
Going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with...
See, this is what I mean when I say, if you're getting asked a question as a politician, like, look how she's answering. She's just saying Donald Trump for every single thing, making excuses, not answering the questions directly. And I feel like that's what I'm saying. Most politicians answer questions like this. They don't just give us the answers we want to hear.
This is a democracy. And in a democracy...
Also, I feel like a lot of people think a democratic form of government means democracy. That is not what it means.
The President of the United States in the United States of America should be willing to be able to handle criticism.
Like, it is what it means, but like, it's not the same thing. Like, I feel like when people think of democracy, they think of the Democratic Party. That's what I was trying to say. And that's not
without
exactly
saying he'd
accurate.
lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump...
The significance
you
of that.
call Donald Trump he's misguided. You say now
He's
he
unstable.
is unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
What does that have to do with him? Okay, I see what it had. I feel like what's with all the name calling? Like, why are we just focusing? The way you win an election is not by criticizing your opponent 100% of the time. The way you win an election is by getting the people on your side. Once you get the people on your side by showing them what value you bring. For instance, if I'm running for president, what value do I bring to the country? How can I make the country better? How can I improve relations with fellow nations? How can I just make the overall economy good? Like important stuff. What policies, what guidelines, what laws? What will I do that will be better than the previous administration? And I feel like this is just ranting. She's not even, it's just, I don't know.
He's not stable.
And it's not just her it's not just her. It's basically debates, interviews with in any presidential debate. It's like it always just long answers, not what we're trying to hear. We just want the answer.
Let me ask you this.
And-
You
and
told
we
many
should all be
interviewers
concerned.
that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Okay. You see, if she does not answer this question,
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what
so we're lying.
he has done in making very important decisions
So we're lying.
on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And
but
Donald Trump.
Look, if she's saying Donald Trump isn't in the right mental and he's unstable, and she's not willing to admit Joe Biden is in that a way worse state, and that's just delusional.
Donald Trump
But
is.
you talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After
is.
George Clooney said
and
within a
if
few
you
minutes of
watch
talking to President
Donald
Biden at a
Trump-
fundraiser that he thought this was not the same
Brett,
Joe Biden that we saw on the debate
Donald
stage.
Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the
see?
people who know.
Look, I think this is where we're gonna stop. All her answers are Donald Trump. Donald Trump. She didn't answer any questions. She just told us about Donald Trump for like 26 minutes. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. I know I probably missed a very important part in the end of this whole interview, which I'm sorry, but like, let me know what you think. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a blessed day.